Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Weekend Frivolity, our broiler chicken show. This is a sort of dovetail broadcast, and it looks like we're live on YouTube. Yeah, looks like we're rocking and rolling. I did see quite a few references here as I was loading up this Hangouts page that the Google Hangouts on air, all this kind of stuff is coming to an end here. So actually, I think we at TRI are actually going to try and move over to that Vimo platform or Vivo or whatever it is. So, enjoy this as it is right now. But this whole sort of Google Hangouts thing might be going the way of the dodo. Just be aware of that. But, while it's still here, we'll have some fun. Level ones were rocking their session with Grim today. Geez, they did like almost a 3-hour session with Grim. And he's so patient. He's so understanding. I mean, we're so fortunate at TRI to have all these wonderful people working within our community. And he just slowly worked through all the questions. I was so proud of him. And it just goes to show, we have your best interests at heart. Yeah, Kenny says Grim is a rock star. Gotta say, man. I mean, Jesus, he's so good. And the good part about it, all this, of course, is that we're here to try and help. We try and keep the cost down as low as possible, but understand that that's our absolute number one objective with all of this is we're trying to help. So that's kind of why we do this weekend broiler chicken show. Talk to the public a little bit. And try and help. I do see there's a bunch of people on YouTube, and as somebody says, you're supposed to smash that like button. Thank you, Andreas. And hit that subscribe button and call up your dad and wish him a happy Father's Day and all that kind of fun stuff. But anyway, speaking of which, happy Father's Day to all those fathers out there. And once I'm done this, I will hop in the car and head on over and give Liam the absolute best afternoon I possibly can. So I do see there are a bunch of questions on YouTube, so I'll try and answer them. So hang in there, guys. And if the messages keep scrolling up there, and happy Father's Day, Kevin. If the messages scroll up and you're like, hey, you didn't ask me a goddamn, or you didn't answer my question, damn it. Just post it again. Oh, hello, Gibby. Happy Father's Day to you, Gibby. I don't know whether you're in the video hangout here with us, but I see your note on the TRI lounge, so that's cool. As I sort of started off, and I kind of like to do this, is this broiler chicken show dovetails with the level oneers. They're just finishing up eating their vegetables right now. Today's module is all about risk management. Given the state of the altcoin market and regulators and their wonderfulness in the United States of America and these various currency exchanges' reaction to the Americans' wonderfulness. Oh boy, we're all getting a really big lesson in what they call systemic risk of late. And I would also really like to sort of drive home this idea of the chop Vegas market that I've been talking about it for probably the past 6-8 months or so. I don't know whether we need to go into the charts. In fact, maybe I should. So let's see if I can load this up here. Keep in mind this is a bit sloppy because I'm just going on the fly here. But our 4-year cycles of how Bitcoin acts, I still really think that. And this chart's going to be a mess because all these dates are going to be all screwed up. So this is going to probably take a bit to fix. Yeah, I should have had this all done before I started. So my apologies, everybody. But, the last bear back in 2014, 2015, we saw a bottom come in. Then we had to spend like, almost the better part of a year just sort of cleaning up after sort of the reaction dump and counter trend rallies and stuff, and then actually getting all right, this thing is officially weekly bottomed. It's a new bull market. I affectionately like to call this sort of chop Vegas. As the mayor of Vienna would say, chop Vegas. Inside joke, you'd have to be a TRI member to know what that means. And I distinctly remember through this period, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think Litecoin's happening was this bar here, where the market did a nice little rallied back up against resistance and stuff. And then after that event, we had one more dump in the pooper. And then we actually marked the bottom. And what was interesting about this bottom in particular was you can see how we actually even probed against these lows, broke this W here, and then went in, put in a W right afterward and took off. So, I'm a little leery about, people like calling bottoms, Bitcoin's going to the moon, yada, yada. There is our bottom that was put in a few months ago now, and I guess March was our breakout. Had a really, really nice rally here, no doubt about it. Very, very attractive. I'm worried that, this is all open space here, and I even saw somebody in the lounge before I loaded up this video kind of went, gee whiz, if we fail here, man, it's a long way back down. So, be cognizant of that. But also too, and this is what I was really trying to get at, was through this period, I distinctly remember the altcoins were still in the pooper. And there really wasn't a heck of a lot of interest in the altcoin space through this mess. So, I still I'm going to hold on to sort of chop Vegas kind of thinking here. And I'm a little concerned, and frankly speaking, when I went on Twitter, and of course Twitter's an absolute mess now with Binance and stuff like that, reacting to the Americans, Trex, of course, doing their issues with American customers. It's a state of confusion right now in the altcoin space. I fully appreciate that. And I don't know whether we're really ready to actually go on full sort of crypto bull just yet. And I was a little surprised at how overtly bullish crypto Twitter has turned here on Bitcoin. So, I think, I just wanted to start off with, okay, up is nice. I put out a tweet earlier this morning. I was like, gee whiz, guys, I used to work with a guy out of New York, Ray Burchett, and he always said, you can't really decide anything about a market until 38.2 is resolved. We haven't even gotten to 38.2, right? That's at 94.41 here, and the high on this bar is 93.91. We haven't even got here yet. Like quite often what ends up happening is we sort of swim around this level and do a whole bunch of monkey games. So, I'm not ready to start talking moon yet on Bitcoin. I really am not. But I also said too, and I think it's really important that I'm just one guy in the market. I'm just going to simply give you my opinion. And the irony of it all is that everybody on the site knows how much Brian thinks of people's opinions. Trade your setups, right? That's the only thing that matters in this space. Trade your setups. And the cool part about it, I suppose, is, we squawk about W's at length, ad nausea. You can see where the W is here. This came in 42.36.84, I think was the number. 42.36.84, yeah. Hats off to anybody who's actually able to pull the trigger on that W. I mean, you can clearly see the end result. And actually, this is kind of interesting because, often people would bark at me. Yeah. Is that what my bid is now? Oh, geez, Zach. Zach won't even bid for my 2 cents now. Just kidding. Zach gave me a pink sheet bid on like 2 cents. A lot of 0.000000000. Anyway, the point here is in the past, I used to, years gone by, actually, and I've really not trading altcoins a hell of a lot right now. I think in the past like 2 or 3 months, I bought like 1 or 2 positions. Just haven't done a heck of a lot here. But the point that I'm trying to make here is I used to, like buy W's and then banging out W's on altcoins, and notice that the market ran into traffic here. The first signs of traffic was basically the double level off of that W, which to me, as an old gnarly veteran, I look at this and go, yeah, well, that makes sense. Anybody who did take the risk of buying this, they basically sell part of their position, establish that risk-free trade, and it doesn't matter what Bitcoin does from here on out on the rest of that person's trade. They're sitting on a risk-free trade. You see it in the stock market all over the place. It's not like this is a unique thing to crypto. And what's so funny is, I would put out a tweet, banging out doubles. Oh, I got my double. And then everybody be like, oh, crap. Well, that means the damn rally's going to end. Beamish just stopped it. It's not Beamish that stopped the bull. It's just this is a very natural profit-taking level for a lot of professional traders. So really shouldn't surprise us. Now, what was really interesting about this is, like, I have a trading plan that basically says that I have to hunt setups that are in the direction of my 13-period exponential moving average, 30-period simple moving average relationship. And I think I've shown you guys those chart matrices before. They're really cool if you can set it up, because especially there was somebody on the site that created a script on TradingView that really helps us see these, because they change the colors. And you could clearly see where that Bitcoin bull trend turn. It's way down here. That's Litecoin. Sorry, where's Bitcoin? Bitcoin's over here, 4,500, right? And we're way up here. So it's not a bad idea to throw on one of these kind of studies and just sort of have it as a template, just to sort of check in with what are the trends and how far away from the trends are we. But the point that I was trying to make there was, since this has turned bull, my trading plan says that I can only hunt long setups. I'm not allowed to hunt short setups as long as this is bull. So I did hear lots of people, especially somebody on, I don't know, there's crypto Twitter or one of those social networking, was like, I thought you were calling for market to collapse. No. And I certainly wasn't shorting. In fact, on the site, I actually even, we were humming and hawing, and then the daily videos, I was like, maybe this is short, but I can't. My trading plan says I have to hunt longs. I'd also say too, and I think this was a little bit of a trap in a way, off of the weekly charts, this bar, and this bar created a potential fractal top. And I kind of was hoping that the market would calm down and come back into support and set up things like bot setups and stuff off of these higher time frame charts for me. But this is really important. Like last Sunday's, like last week's candle close was really an important level off of the weekly charts. And you've probably seen me post things like bull bear battle lines. I don't know whether you've ever seen me put those kind of tweets out, but in essence, you can see we have a bull bear battle line battle going on here right now. And if we had lost this low through the trading week, then that would have created a fractal top, which would have suggested that, okay, maybe things are done. We didn't go through that level, so there really wasn't any sign of failure. So looking for upsides here actually, to me, made perfect sense. If we drill down to sort of like lower time frames, I actually did have some, and I've been playing with this little algo that I used to run on my 1980s website, but it was very archaic programming. And when I used to show people the website, they used to laugh at me. Total 1980s website. it's cool how I've been able to get this DI index into TradingView. And the big stumbling block I had for a long time was trying to get multiple time frame signals to actually fire in unison. And when you change the time frames, the signals would change on TradingView. I think we've got that licked now. And I was very, very impressed with the basically the algo itself, and especially for TRI members. It sort of represents that, like whenever, and really everybody on YouTube. This is such a handy little reference. Ideally, how many reasons do we want to have to justify taking a trade? The answer, of course, is 3 reasons. And ideally, Brian's got to learn how to spell. That's another conversation. But ideally, they should go things like location, then indicator confirmation. And I absolutely love when I get divs. Oh my God, divs are so sexy. And then finally, we'd like to have some sort of structure, M's and W's, that kind of talk. So I actually like to look at my algo as my reason number 2, indicator confirmation. Because in essence, this algo does nothing more than just ask, what are 3 different time frames suggesting? Are they suggesting bull? Are they suggesting bear? And the DI index itself is a cumulation of both volume analysis tools and price analysis tools. Well, I don't know whether you can see this. Oscar says, well, wouldn't that DI signal on June 2nd have been wrong signal? So just as I said there just a moment ago, this is the indicator component of the sort of 3-step setup. And ideally, what I really want to see when I see the indicator fire a uber, and I like to call this uber bullishness when it triggers 4. What I want to see is some structure, or i.e. I want to see a breakout. And so that's what this blue line here is, Oscar. So had I seen the market actually accept above there, then I can go, all right, I'm going to buy this structure. And let's say the signal came in here. I'm going to risk down to a break of this low. I've got some structure to work with. And now I can frame what is my risk reward. And ideally on this algo, I want to shoot for 2 to 1 and look to sell part of the position on a 2 to 1. So we never did get the structure signal on the other side of this algo signal. Does that make sense, Oscar? Yeah. And often I see with people that write algos is they just go, okay, oh, I just buy the market. And what I've found just in my own personal sort of experience is that, indicator signals are one thing, but we got to have some sort of structure to frame the trade. And often, indicators will go uber bull, but there just won't be any sort of follow through following that. So in this particular case, and this is what I absolutely love, is if I can get the indicator, which is reason number 2, to line up with things like the bot setup, right? 25 level is that trade location, reason number 1. And then, of course, hopefully you can see all these wonderful W's in here, wonderful price structure to work with, reason number 3. Frankly speaking, I have no idea what's going to happen here. As you can see, the bot, this was a big bot, right? You had to risk basically about $600 plus, almost $700 on this setup. Is huge. And its ultimate target is way up there, hit that big fat round number, 10,000. The issue here, of course, is that look at the, because this formation's so big, look at the playground that this thing has got to work with. We could very easily see the market come right back down, kiss the top of value, maybe even settle into that node right there on the profile. And the bot will just keep working away. There are some people, of course, that would simply want to trail stops. You could do things like, and actually we just did this for the level 2ers, so it's kind of apt. we could put on just a very simple moving average. I know a lot of site members love to use something like the 30-period moving average to trail stops. So a close below that, and you can see the 30 SMA is just racing up here. But you can see how much wiggle room that's got. More conservative, sort of tighter to the vest traders would probably use things like market structure. But, even the fast traders could use something like an exponential moving average. I'm a big fan of the 9-period. Well, me personally, my favorite, of course, is that 13-period, lucky 13. So you can see how, a close below the 13-period exponential moving average would have you hop out here. So that's still got some room to go here. And even faster traders, you really want to be, okay, look at, I don't want to give any profits back. If I get a close below the 6-period exponential moving average, I'll get the hell out of there. I'd also say too, if we go down to say like a lower time frame, and I sort of tweeted this out just a few minutes ago. Do we have any letters of the alphabet that are potentially jumping out at us here? And I would be very comfortable if somebody was in this 66% level for the bot traders just simply says, at this point, I can now start locking in profits. And so you can see this potential M coming in here. You can see how they've come down and tested these lows. And if we break this level, I think on balance, it's probably best that the botters, because this risk is so huge, you just hop off and let the dust settle, and we'll wait for the next setup. Also too, I think we also see this on Ethereum as well. Yeah, you can see it there. So this was a tougher bot to get into because the bottom really didn't set up very well. But you can see there is the 25 level, nice little trend line break, nice little structure on the other side of it, all framed off this 25 level. And if you were counting your 3 lows, maybe it's a bit aggressive, but maybe you go 1, 2, 3 kind of idea. Again, aggressive, right? But the point here is that, we're just working our way higher. We hit the move stop to scratch level. So you move your stop to scratch. Then we hit the move stop to trailing level. So, maybe you hopped off there. Tough to say. Working our way up, almost hit the bot objective, but wow, here comes a big fat M in the market. If we lose these levels, which ironically enough is the same level as this, I think probably anybody who took that setup is probably best just to hop off and let the dust settle, because we could very easily come right back and kiss this trend line down here. Even if we just try and do a trend line off of these lows, there's probably a little bit of support somewhere in that area there. So you can see there's a bit of open air in here. So the point that I just wanted to make there was, yes, these things are running up. They're huge formations, and not a bad idea, for botters. If we start emming out here, maybe not a bad idea just to hop off. Now, with regard to the algo, and I've just been sort of vetting this algo out over the past 6 months. I'm really, really pleased with what I'm seeing here. But the algo just has a simple rule that you're going to, and it operates ideally off the 4-hour time frame. But you're just going to simply force yourself to take partial profits, sell half of the position at 2-to-1 risk reward, and then move your stop down to scratch on the remaining. And then as new structural levels, think M's and W's, as new structure comes in here, you can trail stops. Now, I could very easily see, you can see on a clothesline basis, I could very easily see somebody say, you know what, I don't like M's. You said, move stop on structure. If we close this bar here, I'm just going to walk away from the rest of the trade. I wouldn't have a problem with that whatsoever. But algo-wise, I definitely think at the very least we should have been taking partial profits and put yourself in a position of strength. So worst case scenario, this thing does crap out. You're not going to, lose money on the trade. For the YouTube audience, general rule, write this down, especially everybody on the site. Colleen, you probably heard me say this before. Colleen's in the hangout here, so her smiling face is jumping out at me. We just have a general rule. You never want a winning trade to turn into a losing trade. It's just really tough psychologically to handle that. So at worst, what I'm saying here is you've had the 2-to-1 hit. Very worst, have your stop at scratch on the remaining. So worst case scenario, you walk away at scratch on this thing, but you've already booked partial profits. So that's sort of what I see happening on the broader market. But what I'm really concerned about here, like I said just a few minutes ago, is we have not even traded back to the 38.2 yet. And I put out a tweet the other day sort of saying, holy crap, maybe Bitcoin's going to do what Litecoin just did. Right? And if we look at Litecoin, you see that it's AB equals CD. And this is a very busy chart, so I'm sorry if this fries your brain here a little bit. But you can see there is the top. There is 38.2 off of the entire range. So you could make an argument that Litecoin has not hit its 38.2 of its entire range. But Litecoin did put in this AB equals CD move, and that's sort of what I was conjecturing. Does Litecoin do the same thing? Or excuse me, does Bitcoin do the same thing as what Litecoin just did? I don't know. But AB equals CDs, the fact that we resolved through this high here implied that we had pretty high probability that we were going to go up to this 140, 143, whatever area on Litecoin. And sure enough, doink, we hit that nicely just this past week. If Bitcoin does decide to do this AB equals CD, then it actually takes us up to some pretty lofty levels. And when I saw this, I was like, wow, because whenever you get sort of overlapping levels, I start thinking, wow, high confidence. So I don't know how this is going to resolve 38.2 right now. But if these lows hold and we can start accepting above this level, then just like that Litecoin chart, A, B, C, D, you can see that takes us all the way up into 13,000 area. But notice too, that's also heading into the end of the year. And remember that Chop Vegas chart that I showed you on Bitcoin? Bitcoin actually rallied smartly into the end of 2015, right? This was the U.S. Marshal Office's auction. And Bitcoin had a very, very attractive rally into that time period. So, maybe that's what we're setting up here, but I don't think that's going to happen in the short term. I think, if anything, this is a story that plays out into the end of the year. I could totally see that. And I guess what I wanted to mention, which really jumped out at me, was this is a very important level for technicians, 61.8 fib. We affectionately on TRI site call it the mountain man level, because I used to trade with a guy who used to always trade this level, and his name was Mountain Man. And it's just fascinating how this AB equals CD will take us right into that level. And quite often what we see happen is the market zips up, hits mountain, and then zips right back down. So, I mean, that's got to be encouraging for the bulls. That's like 13,000. Yeah, what the hell? It's better than kicking the pants. And if anything, what I would like to see ideally is I'd actually like to see things just sort of calm down here a bit, consolidate, put in my 3 higher lows to set up a bot so I can actually trade this AB equals CD heading up top there. So this is still very, very early in its development. And as I sort of told you earlier, because the moving averages are pointing bullishly, it can't really be hunting shorts right now. If anything, what I'm thinking about is pullbacks are still buying opportunities, in my opinion. Did it go 33%? That's a good question. Let's see. There is 38.2. But setup Oh, I just missed it. Not quite. Mind you, that's taken off of the high. So if actually we move it down, 33% is actually down there. So I still got to see some more cleanup. And I'm a little bit worried here. Like I said, the amount of bullish rhetoric that I'm hearing on Twitter right now, oh my goodness, this is getting a little overdone. Motorcycles Vancouver says Shane from Vancouver is Ghey. What does that mean, Shane? Shane's in the hangout here. Does that mean something? Meow. That's what it means. So Motorcycles Vancouver, your response is meow. I have no idea. You want to go on the YouTube page and oh, okay. He's saying he is lit. Best advices. All right, Shane, there you go. Building a following. Shane actually does, and actually, if we're really lucky, because we're doing a TRI meetup here at the end of July, beginning of August, Shane does a lot of work with the D-Control. Is that what they're calling themselves these days? D-Control? Decentral? I don't know. I don't know what the proper phrase is. But he does a lot of really good work. So if you're here in Vancouver and you got Motorcycles Vancouver in your name, so I'm assuming you're here in Vancouver, he does great work at that D-Control place. And I think he even does like a regular sort of introduction to crypto modules and seminars and stuff. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Shane, and also he how do we say this politely? He has a way with the spirits. I don't know. And speaking of moon, Shane is a very, very good bartender. We'll say it. We'll just leave it at that. So you always want to have a Shane in your back pocket. And when he brings out the spirits, oh boy, watch out. So maybe if we're really lucky, because we got like literally about 30 people or something coming to the TRI meetup here in Vancouver, maybe we'll all crash D-Control in unison for one of Shane's presentations and heckle him from the audience. That would be funny, eh? All right, back to the story. Okay, so long and short of it here is, straight line up. Where is short-term support? Where can Brian start thinking about actually hunting trade setups for the higher time frame? And ideally, off of the weekly charts, you're all long from 42, 4,300, whatever, somewhere in that area, and you sold half on a double, banging out doubles, all that kind of talk. And you're sitting on a free trade right now. That would be the ideal scenario. And everybody on YouTube, take a screenshot of that, practice this, weekly chart, weekly W's, they are the poop. There's no doubt about it. I've been running this site now for 5 years, and crypto loves weekly W's. It's worth taking the risk off of a weekly W. Right now, I think we're actually done a very normal technical bounce, 38.2s. This is very normal. And we're in sort of, in my opinion, we're in the cleanup phase of this rally. I could very easily see us work our way up and tag big fat round numbers, $10,000, like I showed you off of these kind of charts. 10,362 is technically the bot's target here. And of course, 10,000 is a big fat round number. Markets love to race towards big fat round numbers. So could I see off the weekly charts we rally up against this trend line? This is a high to low trend line, really powerful trend line working. 38.2s. Could we rally up into this area? I think on the volume profile, it's the top of value. Let's see. Well, actually, we're quite a bit higher than the top of value. I think maybe we'll just leave it at trend line. 38.2, there's 50%. I mean, technically, if you're a WD Gann fan, we could shoot our way up into this 11,000 area. But, putting on new positions up here, oh boy, this is very, very tough for a guy like me to justify. Off of the weekly basis, I think you got to let things cool down. Obviously, altcoins are in the pooper, but really interesting. I noticed I did a study off of, and this was just one story that people asked me to look at. Well, actually, before we get there, maybe we'll just take a quick look at this. This is a really good lesson for everybody watching on YouTube. And like all the people that follow that Crypto and Da Vinci's conversations with you guys, this is basically everything that we teach at TRI. I distinctly remember, and when I put this tweet out, I was basically specifically referencing Gav. I remember when we had these conversations and he came out and he said he really liked the fundamental story of Grin. But really, really good example of just waiting for the market to actually tell you when to act. And the interesting thing on Grin is it did kind of give you a head fake here. And this is a really good analogy of how traders, had you traded this, bought this, and then it failed, you got to basically take the risk and walk away on the failure here. But what I really like about this is absolutely beautiful. There's a guy on Twitter. I don't see him tweet that much anymore. Through the crazy blow off top, he got really, really popular, and then market started to break, and boy, all hell broke loose. But he used to put out lots and lots of tweets about Adam and Eve bottoms, and this was such a perfect example of this, where Adam, of course, looks like that. Maybe let's do this a little better. All right. Use your imaginations. And Eve, on a test of Adam's low, looks like that. Really, really great example of that Adam and Eve concept. Absolutely beautiful. And then, of course, big breakout. And you can see, vroom, up we go. So, the really slick, sharp traders, of course, are hunting that W. Pretty tough to take, but nonetheless, I think it's there. The slower traders, I really like what we call our Lian, well, I won't say Lian, LJ setup, right? LJ. And we used to call it RJs, but we affectionately changed it to LJs. But the point here is, you get a nice trend line tag once, twice, 3 times. The market breaks the trend line. And, the initial reaction is, okay, just go and grab the break out of the trend line, which I suppose you could have done. But the LJ just simply says, okay, let the trend line be broken. And then the first W that comes in here following the trend line break, if it comes in on volume, you got to go. Go, 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 go. And just absolutely beautiful little trade that's working there. And, this is, if anything, like this is priced in Bitcoin. What's Bitcoin doing? Bitcoin's racing up, and this thing's racing up too. So what does that mean this thing looks like versus USD? And really, if you're investing in altcoins these days, I don't think it's actually in your best interest to really look too closely at your altcoin versus Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's extremely volatile right now. I don't know whether it's going to give you actually a clear picture of what your coin looks like in the market's eyes. We can't really look at this versus USD, but if we maybe look at it versus USDC on Polo, I don't even know what we get here. Do we actually get a workable chart? Well, that's not bad. I mean, look at that. What a rally. So you could actually make an argument, there's a nice W, lows held. Could have bought that. You could have bought the reload zone test of that following. You could have bought this W. Regardless, we're getting up into sort of double areas now. Look at that beautiful inside bar reversal right there. So there are names that are rallying in this space. There's no doubt about it. And I thought this was a really good example of just simply waiting for the market to tell you when to pull the trigger. And there are names that are doing well. Now, unfortunately, in the midst of this, where there's this name and it seems to be having a pretty good time right now, and this is actually typically when these things are supposed to do well through sort of the summer, we have to deal with a whole bunch of systemic risk. Binance Coin coming out and saying that Americans basically go away. Trex saying, well, if you're an American citizen, you will be treated one way. If you are overseas, you will be treated a different way. What's fascinating, I find, is that because I'm here in Canada, technically I'm a Canadian, I think, still. I don't think we've been taken over just yet. Trex really hasn't really said anything to me. And the coins are, the altcoin accounts just sort of sitting there, just doing its thing. And ironically enough, Bitcoin price is actually going up. And the altcoins, they're softer, right? Because they're reflecting that Bitcoin price and also now the FUD with regard to Americans basically being forced to sell all these things. We're actually seeing some coins, like on the site the other day, somebody asked me to look at, I think it was Strat. Was that the one that we were looking at the other day, guys? Does anybody remember? Yeah, this one. I specifically said in the conversation that we had on the site that can we look at this versus USD? Oh yeah, here we go. If we look at this versus Bitcoin, really interesting. Tried to put in a W here. W is being really tested now, and look at this. I mean, somebody's coming in here and trying to defend this thing desperately. Look at the volume pouring in here. 1.5 million coins right off of the test of the lows. I mean, that's just sick. So if this thing can hold this and actually get its butt back above here, wow, that's going to be one hell of a bottom. But the irony of it all is if you actually look at this coin in US dollar terms, really there's not a heck of a lot negative going on here. There is its low that was put in way back in December, and it's just sort of sitting in its trading range. So I'm actually finding a lot of the altcoins that I have, they're just not doing anything. They're just going sideways through this. The problem, of course, is that we have a whole bunch of motivated sellers right now because the U.S. government's basically cracking down on its citizens. And this is a comment, I think, all about systemic risk. And, we have one gentleman on the site, Phil, who doesn't like any of these exchanges. And he's just like, look, get a hold of your sort of cold storage wallet ideas, and if you want to do DAX is great and stuff like that, but don't trust any of these damn exchanges. That's the Achilles heel of this whole crypto story. Would you agree with that, Phil? Phil's here in the lounge. So he says, yeah, that's the Achilles heel here. And ironically enough, if we can actually and maybe to a certain degree, the U.S. doing what it's doing may actually expedite this whole DEX evolution. It's a very, very hard evolution to get through. But in a weird sort of way, the regulators in the States might actually just be like giving us that push that the crypto industry needs to get this DEX hurdle crossed. Yeah, Phil's even saying, a person in the lounge is even saying right now that this is actually, in a weird sort of way, this is actually a gift because it's forcing us to take that next step. So, you can look at it as the glass is half full. You can look at it as the glass is half empty. That's entirely your perspective. But interestingly enough, I think the number one comment that I'd have for you guys here is if you are playing the altcoins, maybe try and not look at your coin relative to something like Bitcoin that's face ripping up here. And obviously it's had a major revaluation over the past, 4 or 5 months. and look at your coin versus USD. And you might actually find that really all of this, there's not really a heck of a lot going on here. So think about that. It's just something for you to ponder. All right. So, and the irony of it all is, if we close out here, everybody can see that's a cute little W that's trying to come in. It's trying to come in on volume. So go figure. Excuse me. Okay, so I want to backtrack here just a moment. One of the level oneers today asked specifically about this concept called the race to the bottom. This is a bit of a difficult concept to impart very quickly, but it is actually also coincides nicely with somebody else's request for me to look at something like Bitcoin versus the British pound right now. And they happen to see, gee whiz, it sure looks like this is almost perfectly inversely correlated. It might be, but I did notice, and Colleen, you asked about this, I did notice that there is some periods where they're actually correlated, and then there's other periods where the British pound did well, Bitcoin did poorly, British pound did poorly, Bitcoin did okay, British pound did well, Bitcoin just went sideways, and then British pound's really coming off here, and Bitcoin's rallying, which is really kind of this is interesting in that I never even really put the two together before, but I could to a certain degree understand that as Bitcoin is sort of like now, and I think it's gaining popularity as sort of the ultimate fear proxy, and all of the uncertainties surrounding Brexit, and then of course, what is the impact on international trade with regard to the United States' policy on tariffs of late. I could see to a certain degree that this correlation actually kind of makes sense to me, in that not only does UK face problems with the euro and Brexit and what's the trade sort of implications there, but there's also going to be spillover effects if the whole global economy goes into recession or, heaven forbid, depression over what's happening in China. That people are just like, what? I'm getting out of assets. And also, too, it'd be really interesting, Colleen, to see what the Bank of England sort of policy on short-term interest rates is of late. Carney, ironically enough, he actually used to run the Bank of Canada, the Central Bank of Canada. He's now is he still the governor of the Bank of England? I think he is. What's he been sort of saying about the policy of British short-term interest rates going forward? And very simply put, the only reason to own any of these fiat currencies is entirely what is the policy of short-term interest rates? What is the prospects? What's the trend? If the trend in short-term interest rates, because really that's the only value of these fiat currencies, is what is the underlying government going to pay you to hold their fiat currency? If that trend is perceived to be heading down, and international investors are going to be seeing their T-bills, they're going to be paid a lower rate if they continue to reinvest those T-bills in that country, they'll just take their money and run. And I think to a certain degree, the whole Brexit is probably cast a pretty big shadow on the prospects for British, industrial production and trade and all that kind of stuff going forward, which probably means that the central bank is probably a little less likely to raise interest rates anytime soon. And so international investors are voting with their pocketbook and they're just getting out. Is there a direct correlation with Bitcoin price action and the British pound? I don't know, but I thought this was really interesting, Colleen, that you mentioned this today, and we'll sort of keep an eye on this out of the corner of our eye. I have been saying, for whatever it's worth, I have been saying for quite a while that I really do like the idea of hunting short setups on the pound. And I wouldn't be surprised if the British pound comes under some serious pressure here. And, we might, it's very possibly, we might be painting just massive bearish harmonic patterns here. So on the site, we've been talking at length recently about hunting short setups on the pound. And I suppose, the interesting thing is when, Brexit stuff originally started happening and we were sort of conjecturing about, this thing collapsing, usually when the public gets to the point of talking about it, they're probably going to bring the market back. So the public gets all rah bearish. So what do? They take 6 months, a year, bring the market back, and then start the move back down lower. Is there actually a direct correlation between Bitcoin and British pounds? I don't know, but we'll keep an eye on this and we'll watch this going forward. I think on balance, I do like the idea that fiat currencies, the only value to them is what short-term interest rate policy is. And given all the uncertainties, I think it's important. I put this tweet out earlier, and, I hate to say this, but I've been blabbing about this for like a year now. And when I first started raising the warning signs, everybody's like, oh, shut up, Brian, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. But I've said this repeatedly since day one of this. Trade wars never end well. Never. I've been doing this for 30 years. I've never seen, and I'm a student of the market. I've studied, decades. The whole Great Depression, half of the reason why it was as bad as it was because you could argue that was nothing more than a trade war. And we're starting to get the actual physical evidence. And the problem here, of course, is that usually it takes a good 6 months, a good year for things like central bank policy to be reflected in the market, tariffs to be reflected in the market. But we're starting to get some very hardcore evidence here that this is really, the economy is starting to unwind seriously here. So get ready, folks. On top of the fact that we know that recessions are supposed to happen about once every 10 years, the last juicy one we had was 2008 financial asset crisis, blah, blah, blah. So in essence, we're 11 years out from that. We're overdue for a recession, no doubt about it. Yield curve, of course, front end of the curve started inverting. We haven't had the back end invert yet. That will be sort of our official warning sign that it's coming. But the writing's on the walls, right? And I wouldn't be surprised if we start getting into one of these kind of situations where central banks are slashing interest rates, and there's no incentive to own their paper. We might get a massive flight to, perceived value ideas like Bitcoin, like gold, like silver, as sort of like, holy Jesus, here we go. We're heading into the soup. Now, this sort of come full circle. Somebody asked me this question: what is the race to the bottom in the level 1 class? And very simply put, since the end of the Cold War, I think you can make the realistic argument that the United States is really sort of running the show now globally. And everybody, de facto basically uses US dollars. And, great tell, like when Saddam Hussein was ousted out of power, they found him like face down in a bunker hiding. And in one hand, he had a pistol. And in the other hand, he had a big whack of US dollars, which seems kind of ironic, right? That he's holding the currency of the country that's invading him, and that's sort of his, I need money to survive. So he's using US dollars. I thought that was the absolute perfect tell of how, basically US hegemony, they're running the show. But, and there is some debate of late, past maybe 5 years or so, that maybe China can pick up the baton, and we will move away from this U.S. hegemony sort of world. I don't know whether they're quite ready or not. I don't know whether we want to get into China debates here today, but there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on the ground there now. But the point of the matter here is that following the end of the Cold War, the U.S. basically dictated policy. Interestingly enough, I would make the argument that the U.S. economy is entirely funded by debt. And the situation is getting worse and worse and worse and worse. That situation, ironically enough, won't change unless there is a realistic alternative. Why did the German sort of alternative collapse through the end of the First World War and then through the 1920s? Because there was an alternative. And prior to the First World War, it was like Germany versus Great Britain, and sort of their allies and who runs the world. The end of the First World War, Germany was toast. And they were put in a situation where they just simply couldn't maintain what was the war reparations, all that kind of stuff. There was realistic alternatives. People moved their money to the United States of America and just got the hell out. And of course, the German currency collapsed. I think you can make the same argument, but the thing is, there isn't really a realistic alternative. Maybe China becomes that realistic alternative. I think the jury's still out right now. But for the time being, the United States is really the only show in town. And so as a result, they can do things like quantitative easing, dilute the shit out of their currency because there isn't an alternative. And to answer the question about the quote unquote race to the bottom, what's ended up happening in my eyes is that the United States is basically the ultimate destination for produced goods and services. These internal economies, especially after the end of the Cold War, Eastern Europe was a mess, a lot of Asia was a mess. There really wasn't any other place to sell your product other than the United States of America. So how do you compete? If you have sort of like Japan over here making Toyota, and Germany, of course, benefited greatly from this thing called the introduction of the euro, because in essence, the euro also incorporates a lot of the southern European countries, which have absolutely horrible balance sheets. But if you're going to compete, and it doesn't matter, I just picked two countries, Germany and Japan, and you want to sell your product into the US market, how do you make your product more competitive? And the simple answer is by devaluing your currency. You devalue your currency, then when you sell your product into the US market, your product becomes cheaper for the American consumer. And then when you repatriate that money back to your country, you get even more money because your currency is devalued. So we have this competition, and it doesn't matter whether you're creating cars or whether you're farming soybeans like the Brazilians, they farm a lot of soybeans, or whether you're growing wheat in like Ukraine. It was just simply a world competitive stage. How do we undercut our competition so we can sell our product into the US market? And that's this whole conversation of race to the bottom. Who can devalue their currency fastest so that their products become more competitive in the US market based on price? Whew, man, that was a mouthful. I don't know who actually asked that question, but I hope that helps answer that. All right. I've been talking, I guess, for about an hour now, so I'll probably want to wind this up relatively soon. You guys in the lounge here, is there anything specific you'd like me just to look at? Let's see what's here. Really just want to make the world a better place. I have a really great mentor. Oh, cool. Wow. I own a little bit of crypto, and they think I'm rich. All right. If anybody has something specific on YouTube, or we can scroll back up. I know you guys were asking sort of me to look at stuff. So can you please look at ICX? What the heck is ICX? Put that away for now. Well, let's look at it here. ICX. All right, so icon. Is that what this is? Is there any exchange now where Americans and the world can actually look at the same asset? Because I don't think Americans can look at things like Binance now, can they? I've gifted 1% to FNF, and they got a little interest. Okay, what's FNF? All right. Sorry. Reading 5 different messages from 5 different locations. Looking at this icon on Binance again. Friends and family. Oh yeah. Okay. I think you could make the argument that we had a big dump here. Nice bullish divergence. Willie's stupid. So just give me some sort of W. Give me a W to work with and rock and roll. And I think you could probably, intraday basis, wicks and tails. I think there's your trading range. It's interesting how this thing did try to put in like sort of one of those Adam and Eve kind of bottoms. Unfortunately, though, it just doesn't look like it gained any traction. And then, boom, in comes a new M here. And unlike that strat, this thing is broken to new lows. It'd be interesting, because this is priced in Bitcoin. Can we look at this versus US dollar? Here's Binance does it. So that's kind of cool. Let's see what we got there. Yeah, so this isn't a bad example of what I was just talking about earlier. If you actually look at this in absolute sort of dollar terms, and maybe use your local currency, whatever. I think you can make the argument there's a nice W that came in here a while ago, right? Back in the winter time. And it just slowly was working its way higher. I think probably right now we're stuck in a trading range. Looks like there's sort of the top of your range, and the breakout is basically your bottom end of your range. So we're sort of sitting in here. Really good example if you like volume profile. Basically rallied up to the top of value. And at this point, what we want to ask is, can the market accept outside of value? And so what does acceptance look like, right? If we put in a nice W and away we go, then you know that we accepted above value. Interesting, as we sort of got above value here, notice the volume, the buying interest just collapsed. So a little bit of a negative. And we got to the top of value and the buyers just sort of disappeared. Little old ladies, nanny nibbles. I mean, if you believe in this story and you can handle this systemic risk, as a few of our site members have been insisting of late, maybe consider cold storage. If you're nanny nibbling and you're buying to, double your money, triple your money, and actually all you DAV fans, how's DAV's Pandora's wallet? Wasn't that the product that he was working on? How's that coming along? Theoretically, DAV's supposed to solve all our problems with this Pandora wallet, where you can keep your coins on your own cold storage or whatever wallet, and then the software that he's working on will send the coins to an exchange to be liquidated on events. Colleen, have you heard anything more about that? I think you're a Davo, aren't you? You're a Davo person. Maybe we should ask Dav to come in on a daily brief. If you guys are chatting with him, ask him to come in and give us an update on how that's going. But Nanny Nibbles, if you believe in this fundamental story, I have no problem whatsoever. All through here, I would have no problem with you just nibbling away. I'm just going to pick up a little bit. It's against the bottom end of the range, and I'm just accumulating. The level oneers just did risk management. Critical, everybody. Don't risk more than 5% of your portfolio on any one single idea. So if you've hit that 5% threshold on your nanny nibbles, you just got to cool your jets and don't do a damn thing. If you need to, maybe move the coins to your cold storage. I don't know. That's entirely up to you. You want to take a chance staying on Binance. If you're an American, you better get the hell out of there. Systemic risk, right? It has probably very little to do with the actual cryptocurrency itself, which is really sad. But anyway, the point that I would just simply say here is nanny nibbles. You're just nibbling away because you like the fundamental story, and you've got sort of your outs. You've got your ways of holding on to your coins without these regulators coming and pooping on you. Yeah, and as Rocker says here, we used to have an old expression in trading: the longer the channel, the bigger the run. And actually, I had this really fun story. Yeah, this was a great. This is probably a perfect analogy of that last cycle, and I don't even know if it's even still listed anymore. But we had bought this crazy Verge at like 2 sats, which I always find so amusing. I don't even know where I can see it here somewhere. I know they won't have it. Maybe it was over here. But we bought this Verge through this mess, right? At 2 sats. Now there is a channel. Ay, caramba. Right? Altcoins might have to go through this. Remember I talked earlier about crypto winter and Chop Vegas and all that kind of stuff, right? A lot of these altcoins, they didn't do anything through that Bitcoin Chop Vegas, right? So we might be in this kind of environment. That's totally possible. So anyway, the point that I'm trying to make, I don't even know what Verge looks like right now. It doesn't look like it's W'd yet. They might just take this thing right back down to 2 sats, which of course would be criminal, but it's very typical venture capital. But your idea, what was it? That X thing? Hold on a second. There we are. Nice channel. This is versus US dollars, versus Bitcoins. I don't know what the channel would look like. BTC. Boom. There we go. Looks like it's lost the bottom of the channel here. So relative to Bitcoin, there's not a heck of a lot going on here. And we might, just have to sit and park for sideways for a good 6 months here. That's totally possible. Internals, not overly impressed. You had a nice little rally here. Do you think you... Yeah, well, there's, 600. Got cute little bottoms that come in here. Rallied up to a high of 900, so didn't quite get a double. Big old M comes in here, right? Of course. In fact, I was sort of tweeting about that earlier with Bitcoin. If you see the market smiling at you, get ready. And everybody should look at this and go, oh, yeah, gee whiz, I can see the smile. Yuck. Suppose you could argue to a certain degree with the break of these lows, we got the market smiling as well. But remember, too, like I said just a moment ago, this is relative to Bitcoin. Maybe Bitcoin goes up to 13,000, and that's what actually causes this to go even lower. And I think it's a good idea if you're actually thinking about investing in these altcoins to be looking at them versus a stable asset like US dollars. Having said that, the internals, looking a little heavy. You can see the M's in our oscillators. They're cleaning themselves up. We did get a little bit of a stupid reading here just a while ago. That was back in May, and that sort of translated into that rally. But not a heck of a lot of follow through. And I would probably say right now your best bet is the old breakout is now support, which, gee whiz, what a coincidence, will be a fail of that M. And the top end of the range here is top, and it looks to me just on balance like we're stuck in this range here for a while. Oh, we'll see how that goes. It's not something that I would probably be too interested in. I don't like the fact that it made a new low here. That's a little suspicious. My hunch, for whatever it's worth, if this thing is really for real, is we would ideally like to see it come down into things like reload zones. You probably heard me talk about that before. And kind of like that coin that I showed you before. Ideally, what you'd love to see is Adam and then Eve. That would be like ideal scenario. It's interesting how traders got a trade. We told you about Mountain Man on Bitcoin earlier. There he is at 61.8, and you can see how I'm sure a lot of traders stepped in off of that level and enjoyed that rally there. So, interesting that grin was able to rally in the face of this kind of market state. Is there like a fundamental driver going on with that? Grin story right now? Is it being listed? Is it being like adopted by somebody? I don't know. But it's nice to see that it's rallying in the face of the Bitcoin rally. But I think the tell there really, and actually it'd be interesting to look at this versus USD. Problem is, where do we want to look at this? Because you Americans, you're not even allowed to look at this over here, but nonetheless. This is interesting. So once this rally is done, do you guys notice how they left a price gap right there? My hunch is at some point this Grim's going to have to come back down and fill in that gap. Actually, it's interesting how they left that gap open there too. So, once this thing's done, I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down here. But given the fact that this is that chop Vegas type market state right now, I'm not looking for the moon on any of these altcoins right now. Frankly, like I said earlier, over the past, since I've been back from my little vacation there's only one coin that I actually even threw some stink bids in. And I don't even know if it's going to hold up here or not. But it was one of the V coins. I think it was Vert. I went and just threw in some bids here because I thought I got a nice little W. Clothesline W never did come in here. But I really did like the OBV. Nice, strong volume flow. So we'll see how this goes. I mean, it's nice to see that it hasn't crapped out here. I find it ironic I have not gotten my fill off of this second order, which kind of pisses me off. But I'm sure that over the next few days, I'm probably going to get it as things just sort of melt down here. But again, looking at the US dollar chart, to me, this isn't such a terrible idea. Nice OBV. Things are looking strong. I got my, I don't know whether that's a confirmed div or not. Let's see, 72, 73. Yeah, so that is a confirmed div. Really did go stupid. So I went and picked up a little bit of this, but that's about the only thing that I've been buying. It kind of sucks because I know that people in the crypto space want to be crypto bull, but I haven't been doing a heck of a lot of buying. I just haven't, and I would actually prefer that we get through the end of this year, let Bitcoin put in its big weekly bottom, and indeed it's back in a bull. Still like the idea of us coming back down and testing these lows. Maybe we just go straight up. I don't know. I mean, but chop Vegas kind of idea. I'd really like to see this thing put in a nice wide W, and then if this thing really is rock and roll and the next best thing since sliced bread, then we put in this wide W, kind of like what you saw back in 2015, 2016, right? And kind of like what I showed you with that Adam and Eve setup just a few minutes ago. What I really want to see is a nice wide W here, right? So, we'll see how it goes. But I'm still feeling like crypto is in that sort of chop Vegas kind of market state. And frankly speaking, I just don't trust it just yet. And, seeing what Trex is happening and Binance now, I still think we got to go through a bit more time of cleanup on the whole space. It sucks. But, if anything, what I really like is find those good fundamental stories, put yourself on a nice dollar cost averaging plan, You could call it little old lady. You can call it Nanny Nibbles. If you believe in the fundamental story, just put yourself on an accumulation plan. I'm not pounding the table on this idea. It could easily crap out here by the end of today. Not pounding it idea whatsoever. And I think my bids are for like 0.025 BTC. Not a heck of a lot. So just be forewarned there. Okay, so somebody asked about that name. Let's see. So hopefully that helped you, Angel. Angle. Unfortunately, I can't be the, oh my God, that thing's a screaming buy. Gotta buy it. Gotta buy it. Answered Oscar's question. BSV, really? Do you believe in that Satoshi vision? I don't know. I mean, the weird thing is about BSV is you really have to be a fan of the good doctor. If you're not a fan of the doctor, man, it is tough to justify buying this thing. We'll look at it versus US dollars. Let's see what it looks like versus US dollars. Well, it's had a hell of a run here, no doubt about it. So I was seeing videos and stuff on YouTube about him saying, take me to court. We'll decide whether I'm telling the truth in court or not. Hopefully everybody looks at this and goes, well, okay, I can see where Beamish probably would want to buy, that W there. That's sort of cheap ass Brian. Nice little W's. Really stupid down in here, right? So I don't mind the idea of strapping some on here, but way up top here, oh boy, this is nosebleed territory. As you can see, I've drawn on bought levels here. I think I might, keep in mind this is a daily level. I think I might even do something like this and then something like that. And then this is, what's that number? 170.48, 176.59. That's higher. 178. Yeah. So it looks like we're making higher lows. So that works. So we can put on the bot trade. Oh, there you are. So who is mentioning this? JD. So JD, I hope you can see. Looks like a bot setup is trying to form here. We've gotten the trend line breakout, and you can see where the 25 level is. So if I was trading this, if I was so inclined, I like the idea of buying off of the 220 level. Maybe you play this little resolution here, looking for 370. So I don't know whether you're calling for 1,000 there. I don't know. I mean, that's not really a number that I could probably endorse. I think boom, boom, boom up into here, maybe $300-400 at best. I think that there is a setup there. If we lose this low, that 170.48, you better just get the hell out of there. So you're going to risk $40 for a potential to make 130. Sounds like a nice 3-to-1, right? 130, 140, 150. I can't do my math. Sorry, guys. $150. So that's probably the way that I would look at it from a trade perspective. I mean, you could take that shot. Internals, money is flowing into this thing. I'd be careful here, though. We don't get a volume impetus sell signal. If we get a green candle less than be whatever the lowest low is here. So I guess if we get a green candle less than 780, wow, that's a crazy number. On a daily basis, this thing trades less than 780 coins. That could be problematic. So be careful there. Willie, technically not stupid yet, but we're definitely up in the upper end of the range. And we do have a bit of a, well, no, it's not a divergence, so I'll take that back. It's middle of the road. Remember, Brian's a cheap ass, though, right? So, I mean, if I really did want to buy this thing, that's sort of a commentary on the good doctor. which I say, of course, tongue in cheek. I think he had a nice little trend line test. Broke the trend line. All right, give me some sort of market structure to get long. Looks like there was probably a W that came in over here. Yeah, down, up, down, tested the low, broke out. So I think, JD, your buy, ironically enough, the sort of the level, if you will, probably through there, eh? All those highs, ding, 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 ding. But conservative, bang, bang. So that's $56. And notice they pulled it right back into that level. And anybody who sort of missed that trade, they were given the opportunity to get in on that trade on that tail there. Investment grade up top here, no. This to me is like just a total trade setup. And so, if that helps you, that's how I would be approaching this. Look for a resolution at 220, looking for 370. So hopefully that helps you. I don't know. It's just my 2 cents. Current bid, as Zach said, is how low is that bid? How many zeros was in front of that? There you go, a hell of a lot. Oh geez, I can't even count that high. 0.00000001. Not much of a bid for my opinion. All right. Any other questions over there on YouTube? What do you think of Loom Network? I liked the fundamental story. I like this sort of the rhetoric. A lot of Twitter OGs really like that Loom. But here is an excellent example that, and where do we look at this now? Binance and Trex are basically in the same situation now. They basically both told the Americans to go away. Eh? So I'm not quite sure where you'd look at this for a totally unbiased, clean chart. And, unfortunately, that in itself is a sad commentary on crypto. Is Coinbase on here? Oh, there it is. Oh, and it's even versus USDC. Okay, let's see what we got here. Yeah, so there, go figure. Versus US dollar, this thing's actually a bull. Right? I mean, everybody should look at this and go, okay, I think I could get a pretty good idea where that Beamish guy would be interested. We've got that there and then that there, right? And what I really like, I think, is this one here, right? 1, 2, 3, first structure on the other side of a trend line. Hopefully everybody looks at that and says, gee, that sure looks like a W. So, in US dollar terms, let's say we'll take that W there, right? That's 4 cents, right? Rallied all the way up to 8 cents. What a coincidence. Isn't that, that's exactly like the Bitcoin trade. It's exactly the same. 4,300 is a breakout on Bitcoin, rallies up to 8,400, whatever. Gee whiz, a whole bunch of sellers come in and knock the thing back down because they're selling half on a double, getting themselves a free position. I mean, it's almost cliche after a while you see this, guys. But anyway, I suppose, if you miss this original bottom, the cool part about this is if you look at this on a weekly chart, I bet you this forms a really big W. Boink. Yeah, there it is. Especially if we change this to like a line chart, you'll see this a lot easier. Down. That was off of that ICO, I think. I don't know. What did this ICO? I don't know. I'm terrible at that stuff. I think your weekly W level comes in on the move through there. So it'd be interesting to see whether we got any tails that came down into this level and gave sort of those old open orders that were working the opportunity to get fills. Well, close. You can see off of the intra-week action, that's exactly what happened here. Off of the clotheslines, we didn't quite get into there. Very close. You probably heard Brian talk about reload zones in the past. What do you think the odds are these dips down into here were into reload zones? I bet you're pretty good. Yep, there's good old mountain man. Doink. So it shouldn't surprise us that when we get down into sort of this zone, you're going to find that there is going to be some demand for this. So it really doesn't surprise me that dips into these areas found buyers. The original weekly W, Mountain Man, and also too, this is a really good commentary on value going the other direction. So remember we had said, do we find that the market accepts below? In that other example, it was, does the market accept above value? And in this particular case, especially when you're watching corrections, you can see the bottom of values right there. So the market comes down to the bottom of value and it says, okay, do I really want to be below value? And here you can clearly see it spent, 1, 2, 3 weeks asking, do I want to be below value? No, I don't want to be below value. And then notice it rallied right up top here, right, to the top of value, and then it stalled. It's remarkable how this stuff works. So, in fact, and everybody in the lounge, let's see, Colleen, you're actually working on this week, aren't you? If we see that the market accepts one side of value and moves away from it, about how often are we going to go test the other side of value? Doink. And that's basically, this is one of our bread and butter rules, if you will, with volume profile, is that 80% of the time, if we accept one end of value and we turn around, 80% of the time we should go up and test the other end of value. All right, and that's basically exactly what that is. Really, really good example. So, looking at this perspective, this is a bull. Wait a minute, I thought altcoins were shit. I've actually shown you Grin, and we've shown you this one. We're actually on the US dollar base, like actual currency based. This thing's actually a bull. Now, this is also really cool too. Colleen, you just did a trend channels. Did you see how I did that? This trend line was confirmed on the move above here. And then I draw the trend channel back against the previous sell-off's high. And notice how the market basically stalled right against that level, right? If I go somewhere there, notice how the market just ran out of steam right up against the top of the channel. And in essence, all we're doing here is we're just oscillating around the midpoint of that channel. Isn't that cool? That's like a direct application of what you just learned. Isn't that, it's remarkable how consistent this stuff is. So, if you were going to ask, is this market trending higher? I would say yes. And you'd say, okay, well, what is the direction of the trend? Well, you can see as long as we stay in this channel, that is the direction of the trend. Isn't that cool? This is its secret formula. This was actually written by one of our students, and it puts all of our fancy moving averages and the clouds and everything. I think I showed you that. Yeah, all these and stuff. And it was written by one of our students. So really, I would prefer if we could, maybe Dale or Dele, that maybe you be a site member and we'll help you set that up. You only get so much being on the YouTube page. Okay, that's, holy geez, 12:30. How long have I been going on here? Oh boy. I think we'll probably leave it at that for today. I don't want to sound like I'm just blabbing and ranting and wasting everybody's time. What do you think, guys in the lounge? Did you get any value out of what I said to here today? Did that help at all? I sure hope so. Please understand, everybody, this is just Brian's opinion. I've been doing this game for a good 20, 30 years. You YouTubers, right? I've learned a thing or two in my adventure and my journeys. Basically, The education program that I've put together is, in essence, that sort of 20, 30-year experience distilled down into, I guess, what are they, about 30 modules or something? And what's really cool is that we've got enough people educated on the site that, people like Grim are able to actually be level 1 instructors. It's like we had a really great presentation on the site on Friday by one of our OGers, the mayor of Vienna, on his approach to investing and how he screens ideas, basically following the principles that I teach. Remember those 3 reasons, right? The 3 reason conversation never changes. Whoa, look at that. Uh-oh. Oh, boy, here we go. I hope the public doesn't get too punished here. So actually, this is interesting. We were talking earlier about these bullish bots and if this thing failed. So if you were in this ETH bullish bot, I think you just got the polite word to maybe exit. And I'm kind of worried about this, right? Is holy Jesus. Last time we saw the market smiling at us, you can see dump into reload zones. Then the market smiled at us again, dump into reload zones. Oh my goodness. Where's the reload zone here? Oh boy. So just be careful, everybody. Please don't chase, right? You got to have your 3 reasons. Where the hell is that damn screen with the 3 reasons? I don't know. It's around here somewhere. But yeah, here, right? Location, indicator confirmation, structure. This doesn't change. It doesn't matter how many years you've been in this business. It never changes. These are all unrelated reasons, right? And the great part about this is that there are a million different ways to skin the cat. Like one of TRI's site founders, Julian, he likes to use his own trade location tools, Keltner channels. He's a really big fan of the Tom DeMark counting indicator. He absolutely loves using RSI and for his indicator confirmation. So the good part about all this is that Brian is going to help you learn the tools that he really likes to use, but that doesn't mean that that's where it ends. There's thousands, if not millions, of different ways to justify finding these 3 reasons for the trade. And I'm so pleased. And Jesus, we're coming off here in a hurry, eh? I'm so pleased. I'm so happy that TRI's gotten to the point now where we have very different, very unique perspectives to help you find those 3 reasons. It doesn't have to be just Brian's tools. Now we have educated instructors on the site that, like Alex, for example, the mayor on Friday, he really likes to use parabolic SAR. I don't really use it that much. I used it years and years and years ago, but I don't think I'm at the point where I could actually teach parabolic SAR, so I don't include it in my education. But could Alex build a module and on the site be part of his sort of tutorial education program to teach you how to use parabolic SAR? Absolutely. That's what I absolutely love about trading is that none of us look at the market from exactly the same perspective. We all have different perspectives, and TRI's gotten to the point where it's robust enough. We have enough members and we have enough educated members that we have tons of different perspectives, but this basic principle never changes. So, all right, why don't we leave it at that for today? As I had told you earlier, I've been putting out tweets that I'm a little concerned that maybe the crypto community got a little bit ahead of itself. I can see M's now confirmed on things like Ethereum, so let's maybe just cool our jets, wait for new setups to develop before we go risking our hard-earned money. If I look at something like Stamp off an hourly chart, yep, you can see everybody should see that the market is now smiling at us comfortably. I'm not saying go and, sell everything. Yeah, it's all over. What I'm just simply saying is there is no way in hell I can justify going and putting new money at risk in the face of this. And if anything, had you been long and taken these setups on the breakouts and stuff, you can see the algo's on its knees now. I wouldn't even be surprised if I ran a short algo. It's probably telling me to go and short this thing. But as I said earlier, I'm a big fan of trading off with a higher time frame bias. Higher time frame still pointing bullishly for me. So I'm looking at pullbacks, setting up buying opportunities like this. So, okay, wow, man, Brian sure loves the sound of his own voice. Have yourselves a great day, everybody. I'm going to go hang out with the boy for a few hours and disconnect from crypto for a while. Play from a position of strength. Remember, everybody on YouTube, we do have a 7-day free trial. So by all means, pop on the site, take advantage of that. Come and enjoy the daily brief. See if you can learn something, pick up some quick little tidbits and stuff for free through that trial. And if you like the environment, you like our PMA, you like the fact that we're all working together to try and help each other out, get through this silly market and all the different finanglings of it, maybe consider joining our site. We'd love to have you part of the community. And then, of course, if you need help building things like trading plans, trying to figure out what type of risk taker you are, trying to understand concepts like what does market structure actually mean? What do markets in transition look like? What do things like divergences mean? What are liquidity events, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Maybe consider joining our education program too. All right, everybody, have yourselves a great day. All the best, and bye for now.